Crypto's cypherpunk connection. Why and where did it all start? The cypherpunk movement and the birth of Bitcoin. Cryptography has been developed and used throughout human history to provide confidentiality for messages sent via different communication channels such as mail, phone or radio. The first idea of cryptography was developed in ancient Egyptian times. It's the use of codes and ciphers to encrypt information. It's a form of communication that includes encoding messages to make them unreadable for an unintended or unauthorized recipient. The practice and study of techniques for secure communication in the presence of third parties called adversaries. Cypherpunk is a term for someone who advocates the use of cryptography as a means to protect privacy, especially online. The term derives from cipher, a synonym for code, and cyberpunk, which refers to science fiction about the impact of technology on society, particularly computers, in a near-future setting. Cypherpunks advocate the use of strong cryptography as a means to protect individual privacy from government intrusion through data surveillance programs such as PRISM. Modern cryptography. What we think of as more modern cryptography techniques were developed largely during the First and Second World War. The first Enigma machine invented during World War I relied upon mechanical rotors and gears with some basic electronic components. The machine allowed for 10-carat 114 possible configurations, making it nearly impossible to break by brute force methods at the time. It wasn't until the Second World War that Alan Turing developed a method to crack the Enigma machine's codes. His academic and military work would go on to be highly influential in many fields, including cryptography. During war times, the development of encryption was escalating and the governments were putting more and more resources into these techniques. Eventually they created cryptography so strong that even they couldn't decrypt an intercepted message. By the 1970s, only a few individuals outside of government agencies practiced cryptography. It wasn't until declassified cryptography would become available to the public following a publication by Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman. This would be one of the first strong cryptography techniques the public could use. It did not require parties to know each other to share a secret key. This type of cryptography is known as public key cryptography because it generates a key pair, one secret, one public, and publishing the public key does not compromise the private key. As personal computing became more popular, people like David Chaum started to philosophize about the implications of widespread information technology. In his article titled "Security Without Identification Card Computers to Make Big Brother Obsolete," Chaum has outlined some of his major concerns. The cypherpunk movement was born out of a group of people that wanted to promote the use of cryptography and other privacy tools. The cypherpunks were a group of individuals who believed in using encryption to protect individual privacy. They also believed that this would be a way to fight against the growing power of governments and corporations. It started in the late 1980s and has been going on ever since. Cypherpunks primarily were a group of computer programmers, activists and others who advocated for privacy, security and freedom of information. They often took a radical approach to these issues. Cypherpunks also wrote code and created software to develop and spread technologies that protect people's privacy. The Cypherpunk mailing list was created in 1992 by Eric Hughes, Timothy C. May, John Gilmore, and Len Sassaman with the intention of providing an unmoderated forum where people could discuss cryptography, its history and development as well as its application to computer science, business, law, and society and privacy. Cryptography is used to protect information from unintended use either by a person or through any automated process. A cypherpunk's manifesto. Shortly after the creation of the mailing list, a manifesto was created by Eric Hughes called A Cypherpunk's Manifesto. In the manifesto, Hughes immediately draws a clear distinction between secrecy and privacy. Privacy is necessary for an open society in the electronic age. Privacy is not secrecy. A private matter is something one doesn't want the whole world to know, but a secret matter is something one doesn't want anybody to know. Privacy is the power to selectively reveal oneself to the world. Cypherpunks don't expect governments, corporations, or any other type of organization to give privacy by default since they have their own incentives not to. The importance of cryptography in the digital age. Advances in technology and computing power have enabled people to move more and more of their data to the digital sphere. Moving data through any digital means, aside from the obvious advantage it brings to speed, accessibility, and convenience, comes with the mirroring disadvantage of being harder to protect. The need to protect digital data from being used for unlawful purposes is being tackled by cryptography. However, as with all rights, there are competing interests. Law enforcement has a legitimate right to intercept communications in certain circumstances. Balancing these rights requires a balance known as the tightrope between security and privacy. The importance of cryptography can be summarized by the fact that it is the only tool a user has in the digital world to protect their private data. And as we move more and more into the digital world, by association, cryptography is becoming more and more important. Why be a cypherpunk? A common argument against people wanting to use cryptography in various ways is the nothing to hide argument, which says that if you don't have anything to hide, you don't have anything to fear from surveillance. The problem with it is that there are many things that you would like to keep private but that are not illegal or morally wrong. On top of that, just because something is unregulated doesn't mean it is morally wrong and vice versa. So this type of reasoning is incredibly flimsy. Losing privacy and its protections are equated to climate change by some in terms of its effect on group psychology. People may intellectually understand that driving a car damages the environment, but they can rationalize it because of the personal benefit and the fact that their individual pollution is only a very tiny amount of the total. The cost of pollution is abstract and delayed. Similarly, the cost of loss of privacy is abstract and a bit delayed. A lot of people don't seem to understand how important privacy is until it's all gone. Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel for more content.